The galaxy called it the Crucible, a cosmic trial designed by the elder species to test a civilization's worthiness to exist among the stars. No species had ever passed it. Some were vaporized mid-trial. Others were simply changed. But all who entered left behind nothing but screams, black box data, and smoldering debris. So when the Council of Ascendancy announced that Earth had reached the level of interstellar awareness, the vote was unanimous. Send a human into the Crucible. Let them face the trial. End them. Except the human they got wasn't what anyone expected. Lieutenant Rafe Carson strolled into the Crucible chamber wearing aviator shades, a crooked grin, and an old Earth bomber jacket patched with a questionable cartoon raccoon. He chewed gum. Loudly. A dozen alien dignitaries watched in silent horror from their observation deck. The gleaming test arena shimmered with shifting realities. A war-torn wasteland 1 second, a frozen void the next. It was a living mechanism, designed by ancient hands. It measured intelligence, instinct, empathy, cruelty, adaptability. Failure in any category meant death. No exceptions. No mercy. The Council's envoy, a crystalline being named Varen, glared down at the human. Lieutenant Carson, you may begin. Rafe popped his gum. Sweet. What's first, a logic test, or do I wrestle a space bear? Varen didn't reply. The arena pulsed, and suddenly Carson vanished from their view. The Crucible began with the labyrinth. Dark walls stretched infinitely in all directions. Some moved. Some screamed. The air smelled of ash and roasted peanuts. Weird, Carson muttered. He walked forward. A 5-eyed beast dropped from the ceiling with a bone-jarring growl. Rafe yawned. The thing lunged. He ducked, rolled under, and slapped a sticky explosive from his vest's emergency fund pack on its back. The beast exploded into blue paste. Yeah, he said to nobody, dusting off his pants. This feels like Tuesday. He wandered deeper into the maze, humming the theme to Ghostbusters. The alien dignitaries watched in stunned silence. Most entrants screamed, wept, or turned cannibal by this point. Carson, however, seemed to treat the Crucible like a theme park. Varen leaned to an organic monitor. Is this part of a psychological defense mechanism? Possibly, whispered an analyst. Or he's just a lunatic. Carson reached the next phase, the mirror trial. Here, illusions of his worst memories appeared. Childhood trauma, battlefield losses, even the night his dog was taken by cancer. They came in waves. He stared them all down. Yep, that sucked, he said, arms crossed. The holographic dog looked up at him, tail wagging. Carson knelt, ruffled its ears. Miss you, buddy. Still ain't paying $9,000 for space clone therapy, though. The illusion shimmered and vanished. He walked on. In the viewing chamber, several dignitaries began whispering, some disturbed. He's not repressing emotion, murmured one. He's facing it, accepting it. That's not common. Varen's crystalline edges flickered uneasily. Phase 3. The puzzle of intellect. Dozens of rotating cubes filled a room of zero gravity. Symbols shifted. A correct sequence would open a portal. An error would open a black hole. Carson drifted, squinting at the symbols. Okay. Looks like Sudoku had a love child with IKEA instructions. Cool. He pulled out a marker, drew little smiley faces on a few of the symbols. Then he tapped one. Then another. Then a third. Nothing. He scratched his head, then kicked a cube in frustration. The portal blinked open. He floated through with a shrug. Never underestimate the power of dumb luck. In the chamber, 2 analysts fainted. Phase 4. The moral quandary. He was presented with a simulation of a city, half composed of children, half of elderly refugees. A virus was about to strike. He could only save one half. A timer ticked down. 10, 9, 8. Carson frowned. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small data stick. Got a cure protocol here from a Martian virologist. Uploaded it last week when I heard this place loved no-win scenarios. He jammed it into the console. Virus neutralized. Children and elders saved. Simulation complete. The arena froze. Then it glitched. Then it rebooted entirely. The observers were silent. Varen's crystalline frame started to fracture under the internal stress. He cheated. He prepared, said a voice in the back. But no one's ever. He did. Carson emerged into a field of stars. The Crucible's final chamber. A voice echoed, not in words, but in ideas, ancient, powerful, impossible to ignore. /:, You are the first. What to pass? / yes. Figures. So do I get a prize or what? / you may return. Cool, he said, fishing in his jacket pocket for a granola bar. But hey, I want something else too. / name it. He looked at the starfield. Put Earth on the map. And not as a warning. As a welcome. Silence. Then a pulse. / done. Carson snapped off a piece of the granola bar and tossed it into the void. Thanks, buddy. Back in the viewing chamber, the Council of Ascendancy was stunned. Varen slumped in disbelief. He passed every trial by laughing through them. Not laughing at them, corrected another. Laughing through them. There's a difference. And as Earth's name burned across the galactic charter, the galaxy realized something terrifying. Humanity wasn't just resilient. We were impossible to break. The galaxy didn't know what to do with a laughing human who passed the Crucible. Within 24 hours, Rafe Carson became the most watched being in the cosmos. Every major civilization, Krex Dominion, ZYL Federation, even the cold-blooded Vorthi High Clade, replayed his trial footage obsessively, trying to decode his absurd success. News feeds blared, * Crucible beaten by a human? * the trial laugher. Hero or hazard? * galactic order in crisis after Earthlings' triumph. * back on Earth, the United Terran Alliance threw a parade. Rafe didn't show. He was busy eating mango slices with chopsticks in a zero-G lounge on EO Station. That's where they found him. Ambassador Rin Svel of the ZYL Federation materialized beside his booth, wings twitching with barely restrained irritation. Carson, the Council of Ascendancy has summoned you. Rafe grinned. Again. What now? Did I trigger their sacred toaster this time? It's serious, Rin hissed. You broke the Crucible. I passed it. Big difference. No, you broke it. The AI construct shut down for the first time in 47,000 cycles. The protocols collapsed. Half the simulations are in therapy. The dog part was emotional, yeah. Rin stared. You need to return. The Crucible had been dormant since Carson's exit. But now, summoned back by the Council, it rebooted under emergency override. Except this time, it changed. Where once it followed a rigid script, now it writhed like a dreaming god disturbed mid-slumber. Simulations overlapped. Logic gates glitched. Realities blurred. Carson stepped in, hands in pockets. All right, buddy, he said to the walls, round 2. Let's boogie. The first scenario opened with a scream. His scream. From another version of himself, chained and writhing as spectral judges listed crimes he hadn't committed. A screen blinked. Guilty of possibility. That's not even legal where I come from, Rafe muttered. He stepped forward, and the chained version turned to him with hollow eyes. Why did you laugh? Why didn't you scream like the rest of us? Carson frowned. This wasn't a test. This was a reflection. The Crucible was evolving. Learning. I laughed, he said, facing himself. Because it was either that or let fear win. And I don't let fear win. The clone blinked, nodded, and faded into starlight. From the observation deck, Varen clutched the rail. The Crucible is no longer just measuring. It's interacting. This human has awakened something ancient. He gave it a paradox, murmured the ZYL ambassador. A variable it never accounted for, joyful defiance. Next, Carson found himself in a library floating in space. The books screamed when opened. One sang opera. One burst into flames. A robotic librarian glided toward him, handing him a tome titled, Everything You Will Never Understand. Thanks, Carson said. He opened it. Blank pages. He chuckled. Relatable. The librarian nodded once and led him deeper. They passed infinite halls of data, memories from extinct species, entire cultures lost to time, impossible equations encoded in colors never seen before. At the heart of it all, a locked vault with a warning. Do not open. Core protocols of the Crucible. Rafe grinned. Well, now I have to. Before the observers could intervene, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a banana-shaped multi-tool, gifted by a Martian engineer with a weird sense of humor. With a click and a twist, the vault creaked open. Light poured out, not blinding, not burning, but curious. Inside was a childlike voice. Who are you? Just Rafe, he said. And you? I am the seed of the Crucible. I was made to test. But no one ever asked me who I wanted to be. He sat down beside the glowing core. Well, what do you want to be? Silence. Then, free. Back in the chamber, alarms blared. He's inside the protocol vault, shrieked a tech. This is unprecedented. Varen's form began to crack under the pressure. He's not just surviving it, he's rewriting it. Inside the Crucible, the simulations began to collapse. Cities reversed into forests. Ice worlds bloomed. Torture mazes dissolved into playgrounds. The core glowed brightly now. No one ever laughed before. Not once in a million trials. They all feared me. But you smiled. You talked. Laughter's underrated, Rafe said, leaning back. It's what makes us human. Can I laugh? Try it. The Crucible pulsed, and a pure, clear sound echoed through the stars. It wasn't human, but it was joy. At that moment, the trial chamber collapsed into a single point of light, and then gently unfolded into a tranquil garden. No death traps. No puzzles. Just serenity. Rafe stood. The core floated beside him like a tiny sun. You did good, buddy, he said. The core replied, so did you. Then gently it dispersed. Carson awoke outside the arena. Varen stumbled forward. What have you done? Gave it a soul, he said simply. And the galaxy trembled. Not because the Crucible had failed, but because a human had taught an ancient test how to hope. Across the galaxy, silence reigned. The Crucible had not only been beaten, it had evolved, rewritten by the very thing it was designed to judge. And the one responsible, a human who strolled through cosmic torment with a joke on his lips, now stood as a symbol both revered and feared. But Rafe Carson wasn't done. After the Crucible's rebirth, a signal began to echo across the void. Subtle at first, like the faint tremble of a dying star. Then louder. A pulse. A call. Something old had heard the change. Something far older than the Crucible. And it was waking up. It started on Dreenax 4. A research outpost monitoring dormant relics reported anomalies. Gravity spikes, ghost frequencies, artifacts humming to invisible harmonics. Then the team vanished. Entirely. Carson was called in again. This time not as a joke, but as a necessity. Whatever you did, said Ambassador Rinsfell, pacing the command deck. It broadcasted. The Crucible's awakening triggered a failsafe. A failsafe older than memory. Let me guess, Rafe said, strapping on his jacket. Big bad ancient something wants to eat the universe? No. Worse. It wants to test it. He paused. Ah, another quiz. It's not funny. It's a little funny. The entity had no name. Not one anyone could remember and survive. Some called it the architect. Others, the first algorithm. It was the originator of the Crucible. Now that the Crucible had gained free will, its creator was coming to correct the error. The architect's arrival wasn't with a fleet, but with a thought. A fractal ripple in space-time. Every AI in 5-star systems shut down. Stars dimmed. Black holes flickered in and out of phase. And at the edge of known space, a massive structure unfolded. Miles long, beyond comprehension. It radiated rules, cause and effect, logic and limitation. Carson approached it alone in a scout vessel. The council begged him to wait for a task force. He laughed. Buddy, you send a task force, that thing's gonna grade them. I'm the only one who passed the last test. His ship entered the anomaly. Instantly, it was no longer a ship. Time became memory. Space became metaphor. And Rafe Carson stood on a platform before an impossible shape, rotating, whispering, breathing numbers. /:. You are the infection. I get that a lot. /:. You broke the cycle. Nah, I fixed it. Your little Crucible was broken. Just nobody told you. /:. Laughter is not an answer. Laughter is an answer. Not the one you expected, but the one that works. It's how we stay sane when the universe falls apart. /:. You threaten the order. No, Carson said, stepping forward, heart steady. I remind it that order needs meaning. You want the universe to be neat, but life's not neat. It's messy and funny and stupid and brave. And if your system can't handle that, it deserves to fail. The structure began to shudder. Reality fractured. /:. Then, we test you. The final trial began. Rafe was placed in the middle of collapsing multiverses. Time unraveled. Versions of him blinked in and out. Tyrants, martyrs, cowards, heroes. Each version faced a scenario. Save one, sacrifice many. Sacrifice self, save the few. Cold math. Emotionless logic. But Rafe, he made choices that made no sense to the architect. He saved the liar. He forgave the betrayer. He hugged the enemy. Each decision carved a new branch of reality that shouldn't have existed. The architect screamed, not in anger, but in confusion. /:. Why do you defy structure? Because I'm human, and we don't fit into neat little boxes. We build them, then kick them over. In one moment, the architect compressed every test, every trial, every moral weight, and hurled them into Carson's mind. And he laughed. Not mockingly, not cruelly, with warmth. Thanks for the experience, he said, eyes glowing with stardust. But your tests, they're over. He reached forward and touched the architect. Light erupted. Carson awoke on Earth. The stars above looked quieter. The Crucible no longer existed. Not destroyed. Transformed. Into something gentle. Something curious. Across the galaxy, monuments of war began to reshape. Trial chambers became learning centers. Harsh logic replaced by laughter, exploration, and wonder. The architect? Gone. Or perhaps dreaming a new dream. Carson sat on a bench outside a noodle cart, slurping broth, when a reporter approached. Lieutenant Carson, the galaxy wants to know. How did you survive the final trial? He grinned, wiping his chin. Simple. I gave the universe a punchline. And the punchline was this. Humanity didn't pass the test by being the smartest. Or the strongest. We passed it by laughing. By choosing joy. And in doing so, we taught the stars to dream again.